Shalom, shalom. First off, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha HaKodash, and double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who all learned the truth of the gospel of Yahweh Shai through the Holy Spirit. Honor, salutations, and blessings to the men that are preaching the gospel of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, in all sincerity, diligence, and truth. And peace, grace, and blessings be upon the house of David, which is the elect men, women, and children that are listening and learning, standing in the Holy Spirit and keeping the faith of Yahweh Shai day in and day out. So I just want to do this lesson, Lord willing, it be edifying unto and exhorting unto the elect. All right, don't be a Diotrephes, okay? Don't be a Diotrephes. And I was just reading here in the book of the third book of John, all right, which only has one chapter, and came across this verse right here, which prompted through the Spirit this lesson. So I'm gonna read it and then we'll get into it. It says, I wrote unto the church, but Diotrephes, who loveth to have the preeminence among them, receiveth us not. Okay, so I just went into the name Diotrephes, right? Just to see who he was. But as you already see, he had a John wrote negatively about him. Okay. And when you go into the word Diotrephes, it says nourished by Jove, but other other translations, it says Jupiter, which I believe goes back to Zeus. But as here it says a proud, arrogant Christian, all right, or a follower of Hamashiach, right? Mentioned in the third book of John, 3rd John, the ninth verse. And it's interesting because this man Diotrephes, he was, as you see here, a so-called Christian once again, which is a follower of the Messiah, right? He believed on the Yahweh Shai, but he was mentioned as being proud and arrogant, or he loved to have the preeminence. And when you go into the word preeminence, it basically means, it says to aspire to have preeminence, the desire to be first. Okay, the desire to be first. And see, that is a very that's a very negative trait to have, because in this truth, Yahweh Shai spoke about, which we'll get, that we are supposed to be servants. The greater you are, the more you are supposed to serve. And something I was just meditating on is that as we're seeing in this world, all right, in this age, as it's coming to its end, people are becoming more and more prideful, right? And their pride, they actually are exalting in their pride. They're prideful about their pride. Okay, they're prideful about their arrogancy. They actually now, in this day and age, being humble, having humility is a negative thing. And that just goes to show you how when Yahweh Shai returns, it's going to be very clear, right, who has the mind of Yahweh Shai. All right, it's going to be very the following Yahweh Shai in this age. It gives you, you stick out like a sore thumb because of how wicked, right, and how adverse people's mindsets are to the teachings of Yahweh Shai. All right, like I said, nowadays it's actually applauded to be prideful, right? And it's actually looked down upon to be humble. So being in this truth, it really does separate you. First and foremost, your mindset, your mentality. And then through your mentality, right, your actions. So let's read this again. It says, I wrote unto the church, but Diotrephes, who loveth to have the preeminence among them receiveth us not. And you should never love to be you should never desire or love to be first. Okay, you should never love or desire to be the leader, as it says here in the NLT. It says, who loves to be the leader refuses to have anything to do with us. Because the Lord never chose, when you read the scriptures, he never chose men who wanted, who desired, who lusteth after being the head. He always chose the one who had no, who didn't want that, who didn't desire to be the leader, and, as you see in the thumbnail, the picture of a boss versus the picture of a leader. A true leader isn't someone who dictates and, doesn't lift a finger, right? Isn't someone who sits back and just points at everybody else to do the work. No, a true leader leads the people that are, following him to whatever mission that they are accomplishing. All right, or trying to accomplish. And obviously in this ministry, our mission is to feed the sheep. So the ones who are to be the heads of that, they're supposed to be as I just said, the heads of it. All right, they're supposed to be the ones that's leading the charge, right? And that was a characteristic that King David had that actually gave him more, status and love amongst the nation of Israel. Let's read it here. The book of 1 Samuel chapter 18, verse, let's see, it goes straight to the point. Verse 16, it says, but all Israel and Judah loved David because he went out and came in before them. Okay, in NLT it says, but all Israel and Judah loved David because he was so successful at leading his troops into battle. You get this in the Salakia, in the I believe in ET Salakia, NIV, it says, but all Israel and Judah loved David because he led them in their campaigns. You see that? In the NET it says, for he was the one leading them out to battle and back. Okay, because Saul, right, when Goliath came, Saul wasn't on the battlefield. Saul wasn't there. But when David went to war, in his youth, he was actually, when Israel went to war, I should say, in David's youth, David, while he was, ruler, he was actually the one that was leading them into battle. And you can see that in the movie 300, right, with Leonidas. Also, Gideon, which the movie 300, right, is very similar to the story of Gideon. You see, in Gideon, he led Israel to fight against the Midianites. So, as a true, true believer in Yahushua, right, as a true servant of the Lord, right, as a true teacher, our jobs is not to sit back and point the finger at tell people what to do. No, our jobs is to show, right, to be the first in showing people what how it's to be done, to be examples. That's why Peter said in 1 Peter, the 5th chapter, verse 2, it says, feed the flock of the Most High, which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind. Neither as being lords over the Most High's heritage, but being examples to the flock. All right, being examples to the flock. And when the chief shepherd shall appear, which is Yahushua, ye shall receive a crown of glory that fadeth not away. And something else I was just thinking about as being shepherds, right? It's similar to being a parent. When you have a child, whether they're infants, whether they're, before they become in their, 12, 13, 14-year-old age, where they're able to do a lot of things for themselves, up until that point, really, that child, you are serving that child. Although it's your child, right? Although they honor you as being their parent, their father, when you really look at the dynamic between a father and his son, all right, or a parent and their child, the parent is actually the one that's serving their child. For example, you got to get up and make sure that they eat, right? So you're feeding them, right? If they're young enough, if they're still young, you got to bathe them. Or just earlier today, my son, his TV wasn't working, so he was calling me into his room. He was like, "Daddy, my TV not working," and I had to get up and serve and do a service to him. And then on top of that, when I was leaving, I gave him the remote. He was like, "Oh, can you put the remote over there?" And at that point, I was like, "No," but it's just the dynamic in his mind, right? Because just like as a shepherd with sheep, when you look at the dynamic between a shepherd and a sheep, the shepherd is actually the one that is doing service to the sheep. They're the ones that's tending to the sheep. And that is the way that Yahushua set up, this ministry. And ultimately, it's for us because he is close, right? He is near unto the ones who are humble, right? The ones who have that mindset of I can't pronounce it without seeing it. Diotrephes, Salaki. I know I'm pronouncing it wrong, but the ones who have the mind of that man, they would never be the ones who the Lord gives his kingdom to, because that's not how the mind of Yahushua was. And that's why even here in the book of Matthew, the 20th chapter, go to the 20th verse, Yahushua had to basically, reprove his disciples, right? So let's read. It says, then came to him the mother of the Zebedee's children with her sons, worshiping him and desiring a certain thing of him. And he said unto her, what wilt thou? She saith unto him, grant that these my two sons may sit, the one at thy right hand, and the other at the left in thy kingdom. But he answered and said, ye know not what ye ask. Are ye able to drink the cup that I shall drink of, and to be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with? So Salakia, their mother asked them to for them to have this type of honor, right? To sit on the left and the right hand side of Yahushua in the kingdom. And they said unto him, we are able. So Yahushua asked him, you don't know what you're asking. Are you able to go through what I did? Right? It says, are you able to drink from this bitter cup of suffering that I am about to drink? Oh, yes, they replied, we are able. See? It says, and he saith unto them, ye shall drink indeed of my cup, and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with. But to sit on my right hand and on my left, it is not mine to give, but it shall be given to them for whom it is prepared of my Father. Okay? And really, having preeminence or desiring to be the leader or to be first in this age is really a vain thing, because all of this right now is temporary. Of course, we set up heads of, churches for order's sake, but the kingdom is really what we are desiring to be. The church of Yahushua in the kingdom is something that is prepared from the foundation of the earth. You see? So trying to get a status and be, desiring to be first and be the head and be looked at and as being the top guy, all that really is a vain mindset, man. Okay, so it says, and when the 10 heard it, they were moved with indignation against the two brethren. All right, and the word indignation goes into indignant, which means to basically be angry over, something that was unjust. All right. Something that, and that's what, why we always say that indignation means righteous anger, because you're mad at something that was unjust. But Yahushua called them unto him and said, so he told them something. So he gave them this reprovement. Ye know that the princes of the Gentiles exercise dominion over them, and they that are great exercise authority upon them. And you see this all the time in this world. All right. You see this in the workforce. You see this in entertainment. You see this everywhere. But amongst the body of Yahushua, it's supposed to be the complete opposite. That's why he says, but it shall not be so among you. But whosoever will be great among you, let him be your servant. See, let me read that NLT. It says, but Yahushua called them together and said, you know that the rulers of this world lord it over their people, and officials flaunt their authority over those under them. But among you, it will be different. Okay, among you, among us, it has to be different. And this is what separates us from this world. Okay, this world, when you got power, you flaunt it. Right? Even cops, they do that all the time, especially to Jake. Right? Judges, everybody, any position of authority, people get when you say, absolute power, or they say absolute power corrupts absolutely. But that's really in this world, because this world is wicked. This world is backwards. When you have power, you're supposed to, it just made me think of Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. But yeah, that's a wise parable right there. All right, a wise saying. When you have power, you're supposed to actually do more with it to help others rather than use it to lord it over people. Right? So it says, but among you, it will be different. Whosoever wants to be a leader among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first among you must become your slave. And this is why us as teachers, prophets, our job is to serve the sheep, the ones listening. Right? We are laboring for the elect, right? That's why Paul said we endure all things for the elect's sake. Just like how a shepherd will have to endure, to different weather, terrains. He got as King David, right? Before he became a king, he said he fought a lion and a bear for his sheep. That's not a light thing, but he did that because he was a good shepherd to those sheep. Yahushua, as it says here, for even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others and to give his life as ransom for many. So Yahushua himself, being that chief shepherd, laid his life down for the sheep. You see? How many actual shepherds, and I'm talking about like shepherds that actually tend to real sheep, will die for their sheep? You're not going to see that. But that's why the Lord, uses that example as being a good shepherd, okay, to the sheep of the Lord's people, the Lord's flock. We are supposed to hazard our lives for the elect's sake. All right. We're supposed to give up our pleasures to serve the sheep. We're supposed to make our bodies a living sacrifice, which is our reasonable service, right? So that the sheep are fed. As Yahushua said, if you love me, feed my sheep. When you feed somebody, you're doing an act of service. Okay, so let's get this here in the book of Philippians. Like I said, I don't want to make this too long, so we want to run through these last few verses. Philippians chapter 2, verse 3 says, "Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory." Okay, and that's what desiring preeminence is. It's vainglory, desiring to be, the first, to be in a position of lordship. That's vainglory, man. All right, because at the end of the day, we all are in captivity, and at the end of the day, we all are fighting for that same penny. It says, "But in lowliness of mind, let each esteem other better than themselves. Look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others." Right? So you can't just look out for your own interests, but you gotta have the interest in mind of your fellow brethren as well, the flock as well. "Let this mind be in you, which also was in Hamashiach Yahushua." All right, and that is the chief example that we're supposed to, follow. All right, so you don't want to be a Diotrephes. Like I said before, I'm most likely pronouncing his name wrong, but you don't want to be that in that type of mind frame, man, because the Lord resists the proud, as it says in the book of 1 Peter. Go back to 1 Peter, chapter 5. Actually, I want to get the one that I believe was one in James. Yeah, James 4 and 6. Let me just pull that one up. James chapter 4 verse 6, it says, "But he giveth more grace, wherefore he saith, the Most High resisteth the proud, but giveth grace unto the humble." All right. So you gotta pray for humility. You gotta pray that the Lord, doesn't give you a spirit of pride, right? Because as we see, what happens when pride enters into a man. Pride, as the scripture says, before pride comes before a fall. All right, and a haughty look before destruction. And the Lord knows your heart too. He knows, that if you got that prideful spirit in you. And that's why you got to always pray that the Lord does not give you over to that. Okay. Let me get this here in Matthew 20. Was it 23? Matthew chapter 23, verse 11. It says, "But he that is greatest among you shall be your servant. And whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted." So you could never go wrong with humility, man. All right, and as it is written, that humble yourselves under the mighty hand of the Most High, and in due season, he will exalt you. Okay? The Lord will exalt you. But trying to exalt yourself, trying to look for the preeminence yourself, all that is going to get you is destruction. All right? It's going to get you, men, right? Because the scriptures tell us about how a bishop is supposed to be blameless. So when you try to exalt yourself, you're no longer blameless, because that shows, right? You can't hide pride. All right. You could try to cover it up, but eventually, if you are a prideful person, it's going to show. All right. It's going to show. And there's a difference from, taking pride in things and being prideful. Okay. You could take pride in, your work. You could take pride in your work ethic or your ability to, let's say you're a mechanic, right? Your ability to fix cars, or if you are, good at something, you can take pride in those things. But ultimately, if you are really, really spiritual, all that glory goes back to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai anyway. All right, because everything that we have, any characteristics, any different, any type of good trait that we have, it all comes from Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai regardless. So that's why it's always at the end of the day, call Allah Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai for giving, me this characteristic or this ability. Okay. So let's read this one more time. It says, whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted. All right. So, hey, I just wanted to touch on this, Lord willing, it's edifying unto the elect. I end it there, giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem Rakak Wadash. Till next time, Shalom.